to make a short tutorial about how to paint in pastel for absolute beginners. So if you've never worked in pastel before, then watch this and hopefully you'll feel more confident after this video in giving it a go. Now there are various types of pastels and I've got a few types of pastels spread out here in front of me. These are hard pastels and they are very often in a square shape like these. They are hard pastels and that means they don't break as easily as the soft pastels, and it's fairly easy to make sharp lines with them like this. So these are great for small detail, but also to take with you to drawing classes or something of the kind. Now here in the middle I have a box of mostly unison pastels. They are much fatter and much softer than the hard pastels. So these pastels will create a much fatter line, as you can see. And with these you can make much more expressive marks than with the harder pastels. And then over here I've got a box of Rembrandt pastels, and they are often a little bit in between. They are harder than the soft pastels and softer than the hard pastels, and so you can create lines, thin lines or thick lines, whichever you prefer. Now with all pastels you can choose to either create marks by using the top like I've done here, or you can use the side of your pastels like that, and that way you can create a more painterly brush mark effect. So these are the two basic ways to use a pastel. Many people enjoy blending pastel with a finger or any other tool, but I'm not a massive fan of blending because I think it quite dulls the colours a little bit. I much more prefer to layer the pastel, and that way you can create much more interesting effects. If you want to. Now if you have a good paper with a lot of tooth, a lot of texture on it, you can layer quite a lot of pastel on top of each other. As long as you work quite thinly and lightly, you can mix your colours on your paper like this. And because you can mix your colours so well, you don't really need hundreds and hundreds of pastels, contrary to what most people will tell you. You don't need an orange if you've got a yellow and a red. After all, you can simply mix it yourself. And that applies to any colour variation that you might want. If you need to lighten a colour, you can simply add some white to it. You don't need a lighter orange for that. So mixing your colours is really easy by simply layering. One of the most important things though is to always work very lightly. If you're going to press really hard, you are creating dust, as you can see here, and you won't be able to layer many colours over it at all. It becomes quite ugly and muddy quite quickly, and it won't mix very nicely at all. Before you know it, the tooth of your paper is full and it really won't take much pastel anymore. So if you keep on going, you end up, as you can see here, basically scraping the pastel off, which is not what you want. You can see we've created quite a bit of dust here. Now it's important to not blow at the dust because then it just ends up in the air and you'll end up breathing it. So if you have dust like this, just simply tap it off over the bin or outside. This is one of the main reasons to always work upright so that your pastel dust will fall down on your easel ledge below. That way your picture won't be ruined by any dust at all. So now that we've looked at the ways we can make marks straight up, or we can go flat, we can mix by layering, we can blend if you want to. Let's try and paint something simple